Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, good day, depending on wherever you are in the world calling in and logging into this webinar. My name is Alvin and I'm delighted to share the next several moments with you. What a great day it is for us to be alive. I'm looking forward to the interactions that we're going to have, to the information that's going to come through, and I think the way to begin this is, if you will permit me to do a little bit of dramatization. I want you to imagine for a moment that the alarm clock goes off. It's too early. You're not done sleeping yet. And so you punch the snooze button, and it goes off for only a couple of minutes. It comes on too soon again, and you stumble out of bed, and you drag yourself into the bathroom, and you go through your daily routine. You come out of the bathroom, get your clothes on, and you grab, if you're lucky, grab a cup of coffee, your briefcase, and the keys for your car. And you stumble into your car, you drive out on the highway, and now you're on your way to work or to your business. But there's traffic, and there's congestion, and there's road rage, and it's very tense out there, and somehow you make it through again to your workplace, and then you encounter the job and the time pressure and the boss and all the issues that come up. And lunchtime comes, and you hardly even take a decent lunch, and you work through the day. Now it's 5 o'clock, and you're ready to go home, but it's too congested on the road, so you wait again, and next thing you know, you're going home late. You get home, and now it's time for you to spend with your family, but you can't spend very long because you have to go to bed to get up again the next morning and do it again on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. Does it sound familiar? How do you do it? What do you do to get energy, to rekindle energy every day, and to do this over and over and over? This is a malady that faces us. This is a challenge that we face in the Western world, where we get up every day and we go to work, and even in the Eastern world, because things are changing everywhere. How do you manufacture the power to keep yourself in good productivity, in good mind, and move through a day, a week, a year when there's so much pressure on you? Welcome to Stress-Prone Your Life, how to live above and beyond stress. I'm here to share with you today that there is a way in which you can be a great dreamer with aspirations and with goals and ambitions that put pressure on you, but the pressure is something that you can go through without the pressure having to go through you. This is what we want to talk about today, how to stress-prone your life or stress-proof your life. And so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put a few slides on the screen that will help us and guide us with some basic information as we go through this material. Again, I'm really looking forward to the time that we'll spend together. And as we go through this thing about stress-proofing your life, I want to set the expectation here in a certain way. I'd like to suggest that you go through this thinking, where do I find one idea, maybe two ideas, that I can go away and implement? If you can find an idea or two that you can go away and implement, and you do go away and implement them, you will be far ahead of the crowd. Because the research shows that 98% of people who go through personal development courses such as this one, they go away and do nothing. They like the experience, they like the interaction, they even like the information, but there is no action. I would like to suggest again that your proof of the success of this time that we spend together is whether or not you grab onto one idea that you will implement consistently. That is good. So now, let's talk about this. This Stress Proof Your Life is one in a series of webinars, courses, and consulting projects that we do with our clients. And it is a part of what we call how to get ahead in tough times. What a relevant thought, because these days, depending on where you live and what your situation might be, these days can be regarded as tough times, not only economically, which is quite sure for many people, but also socially. There's great upheaval, there's great change that's happening. And the ability for you to succeed in your life, irrespective of the pressuresome circumstances, is really an ability to treasure. That's what we're after today. Again, just to find one idea to make that real. Very good. So now I want to talk about this thing called stress-proofing your life. In the context of that, how to get ahead in tough times. If you are going to get ahead irrespective of circumstances, be they tough or not, it is really critical in our experience at the Empowerment Institute that you know how to achieve more, to become more, and to connect more or relate more to people. The ABCs of living the good life: achievement, becoming, and connecting. Now, I know I better stop here for a moment because those of you who are very structured and logical in your thinking may have a bit of a problem with this chart. You see, it's A, B, C, and the next one ought to be D, but it's not. So let me see if I can set your mind at ease here. Regard the A, B, C as the causal factors and the earn more as the effect. You see, there are many people who want more money. They want to earn more. But if they go after money, they make a mistake because money is not a cause. Money is an effect. If you can be more, if you can have more to offer to people, if you can generate more value in society, if you can achieve more, and if you can establish better connections with people, you're going to bring a higher price and society will pay you more, the job will pay you more, your relationships will pay you more. Subsequently, while we're all after the earn more, there's some groundwork that needs to be laid in achieving and becoming and connecting. To be more precise, our work offers these webinars and seminars and workshops for each of the 3-4 things that we have here, beginning with how to stress-proof your life. We have a series of educational and personal application courses, and then we have the same for becoming more, how to get to the next level in your life, and connecting more, how to have greater influence with people, and then technically and tactically how to earn more money. Today, of course, we begin with the one on the top corner in the green box saying how to stress-proof your life so that you can get through the challenges without the challenges getting through you. Wonderful. So with that in mind, let me begin by talking about this thing called stress. This is something that can ruin your peace of mind. It can destroy your happiness. It can destroy your relationships. It can block your raises and praises. It can cause you to earn less money. And of course, it can make you sick. And are you ready for this? It can kill you. So what is this stress? There's a publication called Combating Stress with a Balanced Nutritional Diet, and it's written by the Stress Management Society. According to them, when you face great stress, you go through 3 phases. 1, alarm, where your body goes into fight or flight defensive mode. 2, resistance, where your body is learning to cope with the situation and there's great tension as you protect yourself. And 3, exhaustion, where after the body has used up all this energy and resources to protect itself, it literally goes into a lull, and that is where the danger lies. Because in the state of exhaustion, the body can suffer from some serious side effects. I have a friend in Vancouver, BC. His name is Dr. Ken Ned, and here's what he says. In my own words, he says the pituitary gland in the brain, at the base of the brain, has the responsibility to send out instruction to all the other glands in the body and basically regulate how the body works. Now, when you are in a terrifically pressuresome situation of stress, the body gets signals from the pituitary gland that are similar to what happens when a fighter pilot is going off to war. So imagine that you are standing next to your aircraft, your bomber, and your commander tells you it's time to go up and bomb the enemy. Your body goes into an incredibly tense situation where you are ready to fight for survival and for protection of the troops. Your heart rate changes, the sensitivity of your skin and your brain, everything changes, and you're in that state of altered consciousness. What Dr. Ned says is that when you are under severe stress, you're in exactly the same kind of emotional and physical state as that fighter pilot. Oh my goodness. Now here's why that happens. Because the pituitary gland sends a message to the other organs, and specifically to the heart, saying the oxygenated blood that you normally would send to all of your body, divert it to the limbs, the hands and the feet and the extremities, so that you can protect yourself. Now that's great because it's a survival mechanism for when we face danger. However, if that stress, if that signal continues for too long, too intensely, what ends up happening is that the vital organs like the lungs and the stomach and the colon and so forth, everything starts to be so deprived of oxygen that it begins to suffer from destruction, from dying cells, and now you are subject to incredible, incredible sicknesses. That is if it goes on for too long or happens too often. Now, if you want to get some information about what's going on in the human body, if you want a legitimate authority online where there's so much misinformation, the best medical source you can go to is WebMD. And according to WebMD, 75 to 90% of all doctor visits are for stress-related illnesses and complaints. 75 to 90? Wait a minute. So your chances of staying healthy can go up 75 to 90% or so if you simply know how to make sure that stress doesn't go through you. Interesting. According to this source, WebMD, the chronic diseases are a long list, and I've taken out just a few. Tell me which one of these you won't want to have happen to you as a result of stress. Headache, high blood pressure, rosacea, eczema, hives, anxiety, depression, heart problems, asthma, diabetes, arthritis, death. What about that? Death. Subsequently, ladies and gentlemen, this is quite an important topic on which we're focusing today. It has everything to do with not just the quality of your life, but also your life itself. If you're a high achiever, you're prone to pressure some situations. If you have dreams, hopes, and expectations of your life, you invite pressure. If you have emotional issues in the past that you have not resolved, you have pressure in your chest and in your head. If you're a human being interacting with other people, you have pressure. Now, that's true for me, it's true for you. I used to tell myself something that maybe you tell yourself. Stress doesn't bother me. In fact, I flourish under pressure. I actually believed that until I was proven wrong. I went to a naturopathic doctor in New York. She is an iridologist or iridologist. She looks through your eyes and sees what's going on in your whole body and is able to tell you some amazing things that you wouldn't think you could know from just your eyes. And she looked into my eyes and she said to me, "What's going on in your life? Have you gone through some serious stress recently?" And I was amazed because that year was the most stressful year of my entire life. I went through something that year that I had never gone through before. And she was able to see it because she said it caused a ring in my eye, which according to iridology means severe stress. And I had spent my time saying that stress is great, I can go through it easily. You see, here's what happens. When you're going through stress and the pituitary gland sends the message to put all the oxygen to the periphery of the body so you can fight or fly away, it also generates this juice called adrenaline that gives you energy and drive and power to protect yourself. So when I feel adrenaline, I feel that I'm doing fine in stress, and it drives me to go on. The only thing is I'm not aware that my inner organs are starving for oxygen, and I could be in serious danger. Be careful. You really need a way to handle stress instead of just saying that, it doesn't bother me. Now, I wanted to be very pointed and even a little dramatic in this introduction because I wanted to get your attention to the importance of this thing called stress. And now I'm about to make a statement that you might find to be strange because it doesn't seem consistent with everything that I've said, how important stress is and the kind of diseases it can cause and the fact that it can kill you. But before I make that statement, I want to invite you to do a little bit of a survey. On your screen, you should see a place toward the right there where you can input the answer to this question. On an everyday basis, just about how much stress do you go through? If you were to rate your stress level generally on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is nothing and 10 is everything, you're going crazy at 10, and at 1 you're just peaceful, and as my grandmother would say, copacetic all the time. So rate yourself based on the scale that you see there. Just type the number in, and later on in the question and answer session, we will deal with that, okay? I just want to get a sense for how it feels in your world and what we have to deal with as we go through this thing called stress proneness or managing stress. All right? Have you done that? The first number that comes to mind, just write it down. Don't think too hard about this. All right. Let me get to this statement that I was saying I was about to make. And here it is. Despite all that we've said about the seriousness of stress, I'm going to tell you that it is my fervent belief after 30-some years of observing businesses and people that there is no circumstance in your life, no event in your life that happens to you that is inherently stressful. Nothing that anybody could say to you or do from the outside is inherently stressful. And I will make only one exception to that, and that is scientific pressure or stress, which means if you, for example, if you put a piece of board under a vise and tighten the vise, that's mechanical stress or pressure. With the exception of physical stress, which is imposed upon you, like somebody hitting you with a fist, if somebody should do something outside you that you observe or hear or sense without it contacting your skin or your flesh, there is nothing in that thing that is done that is inherently stressful. Interesting comment, I think, because of how serious stress is. You see, here's what happens. Stress is not in the circumstance or the event or what the person says to you. Stress is entirely in your head and how you respond emotionally to something that you observe outside you. What am I saying to you? Stress is something that you make up. Stress is something that you impute, that you attribute an emotional value to. If you get what I just said to you, this will make you an awesome, powerful person because it'll give you the ability to determine your feelings and manage your mind and your body in a way that is uncanny for human beings. If you get what I just said to you, you're going to be able to sail through situations that make most human beings buckle under the pressure. I don't know if you understand what I just said to you, but if you got what I said and could apply it, it would be worth far more than the $137 that this course normally costs, $139 that this course normally costs. Can I say to you that this is extraordinarily powerful? Let me give you an example. I want you to imagine for a moment that a man and a woman are standing on the side of the street. A car comes around the corner and the little girl runs out not noticing the car coming, and the car runs over her right leg and squashes it. I mean, the leg is mangled and she's lying there right in front of the lady and in front of the man. What happens next is the following. The lady clutches her heart. She screams. She looks up into the heaven with a wild look. Her eyes turn over and she falls over backwards. She faints and lies on the ground. The pressure is too much for her. The emotional hurt is too much for her. The sadness she feels is too much. The next thing that happens is that the man who's standing to her right simply turns, goes to his car, opens the trunk, takes out a black bag, and comes and sits beside the little girl and tends to her while he calls for the emergency, for the vehicle to come with the ambulance. In America, it would be 911. In Jamaica, another number. In Europe, different numbers. But he calls for the ambulance. The ambulance comes, the girl's taken care of, and the man's heart rate does not change. His facial expression does not change. He just goes on to do what he was doing before. Can you see that as possible? Is it possible at all that one situation, one circumstance would cause somebody to be completely overwhelmed with emotion and somebody else not respond at all emotionally, just does what needs to be done to help the situation? Can you see it? Now, you might argue with me that, well, maybe the guy's a doctor and he's been trained, so no wonder he could do that because he works in the emergency room. And that's exactly the point I'm trying to make. Because he has been trained in that kind of physical trauma, he can go through it without being affected negatively. Do you know that you too can be trained so that when the bubbles of life burst in front of you, when hell and fire come on around you and they don't touch you physically, you too can be calm and collected enough to help the situation? You see, in my story, the woman who faints is not any good to the girl at all because she herself needs help. Maybe the ambulance would take them both away. And subsequently, if you live your life in such a way where the circumstances of your life cause you to look up into the heavens, scream, clutch your heart, and fall over, and many people live their lives like that, you're of no good. You can't help mankind. You can't even help yourself. And I'm here to say to you, there is some training that is not delivered in schools, which we're going through now, that gives you the power, gives you the ability to regain the power you've always had to manage your emotions and your physical being through the toughest of circumstances, so long as they don't hit you or cut you or harm your physical structure. Do you understand what I'm saying when I say this makes you remarkably powerful? It makes you an incredible being because nobody can just walk up to you and decide to insult you with words because you have the power to say, oh my goodness, that woman is cursing like crazy. I wonder what's going on in her head. She must really be angry. That's a sad life. Now let me see if I should respond to her this way or that way. Let me think if I should respond to her now or not. What will I say to her? Let me think if I should even respond to her at all. I might just walk it out. Why? Because I am a stalwart. I'm a giant on the inside of me. I'm able to manage myself in such a way where the pressure that people intend doesn't have to go through me. That's raw power, my guys, my friends. That is raw power. And so, with that in mind then, I want to share with you the 3 solutions that I promised you. But as I change the page here, I want to make sure that I establish some realism here. You're human, and there are going to be some types of pressures that you go through that you almost can't help. You see, let me go back to my story. Imagine for a moment that doctor who stood on the side of the road observed the little girl run out in the street the way he did, except this time it was his daughter. Can you see that even though he had medical training, that would affect him extraordinarily, and he might even lose his ability to take care of her? Because there's some doctors who cannot operate on their family. It's just too overwhelming. Subsequently, there are going to be some things that you go through that are so close to you because of the people you love, because of the circumstances that are so close to your heart, that you are going to have to go through the stress, and the stress will go through you quickly. And especially in amorous relationships where you have jealousy and infidelity and defied expectations. Or you go to work and your boss rains down on you and the pressure from him is importantly connected to your family's well-being. In those situations, you can't really avoid the stress. But wouldn't it be great to know that you have the tools I'm about to share with you so that when you are ready, you can get out of the stress. You can voluntarily shut off that emotion because you know how. And that's why I'm going to the solutions promised to you. So here we go. What I'd like to share with you is I promised you 3 things. And I'm going to share with you 4 things. Why? Because I like to over-deliver. I promised you 3. I want to give you 4. The entire solution that comes from my 30-some years of experience is that you work the formula, you work the mind, you work the body, and that you eliminate major sources. I tell you, we won't be able to get through 100% of the material that goes into these 4 things right now, but these 4 things are it. If you want to be a remarkably powerful human being that chooses when you want to feel the stress because maybe it is close to you and important to you, I'm going to suggest to you that these are the entire solution. Let's talk now about the first one that says work the formula. Work the formula relates to some work that was done by Dr. Alex Concord in the UK. And after many years of studying human responses to adverse circumstances, he's come up with this formula that is truly amazing in its simplicity and in its effectiveness. The formula says stress is equal to D greater than R divided by T. D greater than R over T. In other words, stress happens when the demands D, the demands on you, are greater than R, your resources, over a period of T, or time. When your demands outstrip your resources and it comes under time pressure, you are prime candidate for experiencing great stress. So let's talk about how this works. If you should push any one of these 3 buttons in the right direction, your stress must go down. This is so amazing. I've seen an HR director come back to my session the second day and say her life was changed by just this one thing. I've seen a doctor who has a massive business say that this thing is so powerful that he tells it to all his patients who are stress related somehow. Here's how this works. Take D, for example. And trust me, ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to seem like some kind of nuclear science project that is revealed to you. It's not something beyond you or me, but if you don't know it, you just don't practice it. So don't be disappointed when I tell you that the answer is simple. Knowing something and practicing them are often different. D works like this. You have to learn to say no to some of the demands on your life. Oh my goodness, we spend a long time there when we're in seminars. We have practices for teaching people how they say no. Sometimes you don't have the personality type to look people in the eyes and say no. Like my friend in New York who says, by the way, no is a full sentence. It doesn't require a verb, adjective, or anything else. No is a full sentence. No, I can't do this. I won't do this. If you don't have that strong a personality for telling people no, there are many ways to say, you know, I can't do it right now. I can't do it really well, so unfortunately, I have to decline. However you say it so it's politically correct and pleasing to your personality, you have to learn to say no more often because the world is waiting at your doorstep to load you with things that you cannot get done altogether. Here's another thought. There's a meeting coming up where you know they're going to hand out work. Skip the meeting. Look at it and say, if I didn't go to the meeting, what would happen? And if the price is right, skip the meeting. There's some projects that your boss may come to your office and give you. Here's a tactic that comes in another one of the courses, using some techniques that are in the book Persuasion Power. Say to your boss, this is great. I'm really looking forward to doing this new project. You know, we talk about how you say no to your boss by saying yes. As a matter of fact, this is such a great project. The other two projects that you gave me that have a timeline this week, I'm going to take both of them and I'm going to put them off. I'm not going to do these at all because they're not even as important as the new one. If you learn the language and learn how people's minds work, your boss is likely to say one of three things. No, 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 don't put them off. Let me go give this work to Harry. Or he may say, yeah, go ahead and put them off, in which case your demands are lessened for that time. Or the boss may just be like some bosses and go, listen, I don't care, get it done. But then you can still push it and say, yeah, I'm going to get them done, boss, but the others are going to happen after this one. And you push the boss to make a decision. Reduce the demands on you, negotiate for fewer demands. And simply, you just have to quit some of the things that you're doing. Just walk away. Here's something that I recommend you do. Make a list of all the tasks that you regularly do. Cooking, cleaning, shopping, going to work, attending club meetings, going to church, fishing, jogging, going to football games, whatever they are. Now, I want you to decide which ones of those tasks should be given or could be given to somebody else. Look for volunteers. Hire somebody to do some of them. Somebody said long ago that if you're worth a certain amount of money and you find yourself doing tasks that you could hire out lower than the cost of your time, then you're wasting your time. In other words, if you're worth $100 an hour or $1,000 an hour and you're doing work that costs $30 an hour, find somebody who can do the work for $30 an hour or even $50 and you'll be ahead. Easy to say, tough to do. I break that rule as well, but it's important to know the rule. Everything that you have to do to reduce the demands on you will also reduce your stress. Let's talk about this resource, your strength, your techniques, your technology, your capabilities. If you can push this button and get more resources, you can get fewer moments of stress. One of them is to delegate. You find somebody to whom you can give something to do. Don't do it all. Some people are bad at delegating because sometimes when you give something to somebody else, the person may not do it as well as you might. Don't worry about that. You want to live. You want to be healthy. Give the work to somebody else. So you may have to train the person. Delegation is one. Here's another one that also comes out of this book, Persuasion Power. Somehow, it's at the top of my mind because it talks about how people's minds work. Learn how to sell. If you learn how human beings' minds work, and you can align yourself to them and enroll them in your task by teaching them the vision and the outcome on how wonderful it's going to be, you can get more resources to help you gladly to do what you want to get done. This thing about persuasion power is how do you persuade people to want to say yes to you? What a powerful thought that is, to get people to say yes so they can share the burden. When they do, you have more resources, you don't have to do the work yourself, and you have less stress. Here's another thought. Improve your skill. It may be that the reason why you're under so much pressure is because you work too slowly because you're not skilled enough at the task. Go get some productivity courses. Go learn some technical savvy. Go learn how to do this faster and more effectively if it relates to what you're doing. And that will also take less stress out of you or give you less stress because you will have more resources in terms of skills and competencies. So there you are. Fewer demands, more resources, and now time. This is the bane of our existence, those of us who continue to do so much. Time. If I could just save time in a bottle, somebody quipped. But you cannot save time. You simply switch out what you do for this moment to something else. You cannot save time, and there's going to be a time when you die. Between now and then, there's only so much you can get done. Oh my goodness, I'm preaching to myself here because I'm one of the violators of this. I take on too much. I press too much sometimes. But there are techniques which I know to use, and sometimes they really make a difference in my life. How do you get more time? Negotiate with those who have demands on you. Sometimes by simply asking, you can get somebody who wanted the project tomorrow to say, I will take it this time next week. But we don't ask because we feel like we want to please people. I want to suggest to you that you think about renegotiating right now the timelines for some of the projects that you have at home, at church, at work, anywhere that people put pressure on you. I want to suggest to you that you begin to look at your priorities and reshuffle. Some of the A priorities, and most of us have too many A's, should be changed to B or C. Now, who has the right to do that? You do. Now, your boss may give you the project, but you have the power to impact some of them. Change, this is important. It may seem so simple you might not even be writing this down. Change some of your priorities from A to be or to see, and immediately you will send messages to your subconscious mind that will ease the pressure. Here's one more. Focus. Learn how to focus. I have an entire one-day class called How to Be Productive in Pressure Sometimes. And it teaches people how to focus and get more done. When you can get more done, you make more money and you have more peace of mind. Take one important task, lock away all the distractions, go hide away if you must, but work on it with total quality and focus until it's done or it gets to an important milestone, and then you move to something else. Decide that you're not going to do certain projects, not now, not today, so that you can give yourself more time to get to the others and you work on the one. Here's what I would like to ask you to do. You want this question, quote, what would happen if I did not do this project in this time period? When you ask that question, if the answers are manageable, get rid of the project or delay the project. Oh, so simple, and yet oh so powerful. I, who am trying to share this with you, sometimes don't do it, but I know it, and when I do it, it works like an amazing thing. What am I saying to you? I'm suggesting to you that if you master the art of working the formula, your life changes. Mastering the art of working the formula is simply a matter of your being able to reduce the demands on you, to increase the resources that you have, to reduce the amount of pressure that you get from time, in which means give yourself more time, and then it's almost like magic. You have less stress. Think about that for a moment. There's a whole mouthful there, and if you can get one idea that you can implement there, your life is immediately better off. I want to go back to the promise. Let's go to number 2, work the mind. You see, this is perhaps the most important thing we'll talk about today. And the reason is because the mind is the source of stress. The body is the effect manifested in some regard. And if you can shut off the source, you don't even have to worry about the body. Well, now you still have to work the body, but the source is managing your mind. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a thing called mind control. It has become a pejorative. It's now sort of a negative thing. But let me tell you this. If you don't practice mind control for yourself, somebody is waiting in the wing to control your mind any day of the week. You'd better learn how to control your own mind, or you're going to be controlled into places that you never dreamt of going that might not be good for you. I want to introduce the concept this way of working the mind. Remember I started out saying that there's no circumstance that is inherently stressful? I also want to say that there's no disease called stress. Not one. There's absolutely no disease called stress. The closest we can get to it is stress-related illness. And the relating is what happens when our minds make the connection between the external circumstances of our lives and what's going on inside us. Subsequently, you don't have to be sick. You don't have to suffer from all of those detriments and illnesses and life-threatening conditions that we talked about earlier, if only you know how to make your mind respond. Now, make no mistake about it, even though there's no stress disease, only stress-related diseases, when you respond inappropriately, the stress becomes so real that it can kill you. So I'm not saying stress effect is bad. I'm saying stress is something that you manufacture out of thin air by not responding correctly. And so here are some solutions and some strategies I want to share with you. There's something I want you to write down that you will never say again. Somebody said you should never say never. I don't care if you miss every now and again, but write down, I will never again ask myself this question. What's the worst case scenario? Or what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? Most people I know in the Western world ask that question. It's sort of a cultural thing, and it is extremely damaging, and it invites incredible stress to your mind. When you ask that question, you fill your head with the most bizarre, fearsome possibilities. Your mind is left open to imagine the most remote possibilities of great tragedy and trauma that cause you to feel stressed. And the real truth of it is the absolutely worst possible outcome is not very probable. So therefore, I say to you, never ask that question. What you should do is to ask something that's very close with an important twist. The question you should ask when you're under pressure to deliver, the question you should ask when you get into some trouble that could cause you to feel stressed is this. What is the worst thing that is likely to happen if I didn't turn out, this thing didn't turn out right, if I didn't deliver on time. The word likely all of a sudden sends a message to your subconscious mind to examine only the probable outcomes. Think about it. If you're late to get to work today and the traffic is totally congested, one worst case scenario, one of the worst things that could possibly happen is this. Your boss could immediately fire you. You could go for 5 years before you find another job because he's blabbed his mouth about how bad an employee you are to all the others in the industry. You could lose your home as a result of that because you have no income, and you and your family could end up living under a bridge. Now, because you're under a bridge, a rat infested with disease could bite your youngest child, and she could die in 6 months. 6 months, she's dead. I hope you're laughing. Oh, what pressure we put ourselves through. I mean, take it easy. How likely is that to happen? Not at all. That is in the fraction of a 1% possibility. Never ask yourself what's the worst case scenario, because the worst case scenario is not going to happen most times. I hope I'm not the only one getting excited here and energized, because I tell you, sometimes our words kill us. I know that our words can give us life, so our words can kill us, and this is one of those cases. To manage your mind, there's certain things you do not say, and there's certain things you do say. Here's another one. In order for you to manage down stress, I want you to come to clear acknowledgement of the things that you cannot change. You know, this little quip, Lord gives me the wisdom to, let go of the things that I cannot change, and so forth and so forth. But I want to point to some specific research that indicates that 84% of the things that people worry about never happen. Oh, you think that's a high number? You have to add 8 to it, because 8% of things that people worry about are totally inevitable. They couldn't change them anyway. Like the rain, like the fact that one day you're going to die. So if you take 84 that never happen and 8 that you can't change, what if we stopped worrying about those things? How could that affect us? You see, in the case of the lady who fainted on the side of the street in my story, she was rendered powerless to help the little girl. Subsequently, when you worry 92% of the times about things that you cannot affect or things that will never happen, you don't have the power to go pursue the other 8%. 8% of the problems in life you can really change and make a difference about them. And so I will invite you to say this to yourself every time you find yourself in a situation of fear or worry or being overwhelmed with negative emotions. Quote, I refuse to be stressed about the unpredictable, and I take no responsibility for the inevitable. I will calmly let reality take place and look for a way to gain benefit from it. That's a mouthful, but I want this put up on the screen here so that you can see it. When you have that mindset, even though you will not do it perfectly, it will save your mind and your body from a lot of trauma and drama. This mind game gives you balance and control, and gives you the ability, therefore, to help in those situations where you can make a difference. Let me share one more. There are all kinds of mental games that you can play. I can't get through the entire book. Persuasion Power teaches you how to sell by understanding the human mind. This one is called compartmentalization. Here's a story that I want to share with you. I was on an airplane going to New York to deliver an important presentation in a boardroom. I think I was coming from Cincinnati. And when I got on Delta and sat down, I planned to open up my computer and finish my PowerPoint, adjust from the previous client, and make sure it's tailored to the present client. When the time was right, I opened my computer and I could not see PowerPoint. Some of you have heard me present this story before. It's exactly as I presented it, because I can kind of still live through the pain of it. I couldn't see it because all that I saw on the screen was the face of a loved one, a member of my family, somebody I love with all my heart. That face popped up on the screen and took over all of my sensory awareness. Have you ever been through a situation where you go to work, for example, and you're supposed to do something and you cannot even focus because the trauma and drama of your life, your private personal life, overtakes you, and you don't have a tool to deal with it? You don't know how to be productive at work? I certainly have. And I knew I was in trouble, because when I got off the plane, I would not have time to go find a restaurant and do this work. And subsequently, I called on something that I had learned. I was taught this, and I had never tried it in such a sharp, realistic situation. I closed my eyes and imagined the filing cabinet in front of me. I reached out mentally and opened the top right drawer, and I deposited the face of my loved one, my family member, the person I love so much, into that drawer, and gently closed it and said, I'll be right back. I went down to the bottom left corner, far away from the other one, opened the drawer, and took out my client's marketplace issues, business challenges, and put them on my computer and started to work. And it was very clear. I could see PowerPoint in front of me. What a remarkable thing. Some of you who are analytical thinkers who have to understand how something works in order to believe it will have a problem with that because it's too simple. Do you know that your mind has powers, your subconscious mind has powers that your conscious mind cannot explain? They don't teach that to you in school. But the fact that they don't teach it simply means that they don't teach it. If we only knew how to control our minds, we'd explode remarkably out of the things that bind us down to mediocrity or to just commonplace existence. You don't have to explain how a car works to learn how to drive it. I'm here to tell you that what happened to me was remarkable. It was amazing. I started to focus, but it wasn't that simple. All of a sudden, the drawer popped out, and there was this noise in my head. What about me? Don't you care about me? You're just going to work. Don't you know that I'm hurting? Don't you love me? And because I had been trained, mentally, I just closed the drawer again gently and said, it's okay. I'll be right back. The drawer popped out about 3 more times, and after a while, guess what happened? I couldn't even remember the crisis. I worked on my PowerPoint. I got my presentation right. I got off the plane. I did my presentation. Then afterwards, I was able, in my right mind this time, to take the issue out and deal with it. Better capable, better skilled than when I was under emotional pressure. Ladies and gentlemen, you have the power to do this. Who teaches this stuff at universities and in high schools? Who teaches the stuff when we're so busy cramming the hard drive off the people's heads with more files, more data? Some of us are so smart, we've got so much information in our head that we need to be defragged to organize that information. I'm just getting excited here because some of you won't even know what defragging is, but trust me when I tell you that we have power to find peace in the middle of the storm. It's just that you have to subscribe to somebody else who's had to go through the fire. I have gone through immense stress, immense pressure, immense problems, and I've learned a few things, and I continue to learn more every day. And so there's one of them. There are all kinds of others. To relax the mind, I suggest that you laugh more. To exercise the mind, I suggest that you find your favorite music. Even for some people, meditation and yoga. But the real key of it is that you have power over your mind so that it not become the source of stress. Let's talk about working the body. Here's how this works. The primary way, of course, is exercise. The primary ways are exercise and nutrition. See, when you exercise, some really wonderful things take place. Circulation increases. Now, remember that the pituitary gland at some point tells your body to shunt all of the oxygenated blood away from your vital organs. Well, when you exercise, you circulate more. And so the circulation sends oxygenated blood to all these body parts that really need it, like the heart and the liver and the stomach and all these places. That's a good reason to exercise. It makes you healthy. It also, when you exercise, causes you to release tension. So you sit behind a desk and you work on business problems all day. You get home and you start to punch a bag or you run, you play some football or whatever. It literally releases tension from your muscle fiber so that anxiety goes down and depression is limited or minimized. This leads you, of course, to improved mood and attitude, and stress has no place there. Exercise also increases the amount of endorphins. Endorphins is one of the most wonderful things that your body produces. It's like a feel-good juice. It is a neurotransmitter which, when you exercise, is produced and causes you to feel great, happy, positive, and wonderful. Is that enough reason to exercise? I work so hard, I need more. But every chance I get, I take an elevator, I leave an elevator and I take the stairs, or I run through an airport instead of doing the automatic walkway. There was a time when medicine said that, medical research said that it had to be 20 minutes before exercise would have an impact on your body. Now the research is learning more to say that every little bit counts, even if you just wash your car or walk a block or do something simple that's physical. Everything that you can do to work your body will release energy, and it will cause you to be less stressed. So let's talk a little bit about nutrition. There's much that we could discuss. I won't go into all of it about eating the right foods. I want to take it from the angle you can get immediate benefit by eliminating some of the wrong foods, or at least minimizing them. What do I mean by wrong foods? Well, you know the answer. Tea and coffee and everything that contains caffeine, minimize them. Fast foods, things that they make up so quickly that they don't care how they make them up. Butter, cheese, shellfish, all dairy products and so forth. Sugar, alcohol, soda. If you can minimize those, you will also gain greater power to you'll gain greater power to minimize the stressful situations, the stresses of your life, so that situations can be managed much more readily. Again, there are other things like massage that will help the body. Even breathing in deeply will get more oxygen to your body parts. And so then, applying the first three solutions to work the formula, to work the mind, to work the body, you can build up strong defenses against the effects of stress. But here's where it gets really interesting, my friend. You see, the question is worth asking, what if you could actually eliminate some of the things that cause stress? Then you wouldn't have to fortify yourself so much to stress-proof your life. Stress-proofing your life takes a lot of energy. It takes effort. It takes time. The more sources of stress you eliminate, the less stress you have to combat and the less you have to proof yourself and fortify yourself against the stress. This is really awesome stuff. Let's take a look at the fourth strategy, eliminate major sources. That is number 4, and here's what I want to focus your attention on right now. In the process of eliminating sources, we go back to this chart that I had shown you. First of all, I want to make sure that you understand that the first thing that we did talking about stress-proofing your life is very important to get. Why? Because there are many uncontrollable, unpredictable circumstances in our lives that we cannot avoid. Therefore, the effort to fortify ourselves and stress-proof our life is very vital. And that's the reason why we went through all of that, and that's the reason why I sometimes resort to my own CD, immunity to stress, because I have to remind myself that I can be immune to many stresses. So, for example, when I was on the plane trying to work on my PowerPoint, I couldn't just eliminate the stress. I couldn't just prevent my family problem from affecting me. I couldn't undo what had happened to my loved one. And so I had to rely on what I had learned. I had to resort to it. However, for those situations that you can influence and control, you remember the 8%? Why not remove some of them so you don't have to worry about the stress at all? This is where strategy number 4 comes in. Again, if you can achieve more and become more and connect more and earn more, many of the stressors don't have to be managed because they'll go away. To eliminate major sources of stress, we need to go back to these sessions that we talked about. We need to have the ability to make ourselves more valuable. We have to learn how to work better with people. And that is exactly what we're going to do next. You see, next Wednesday night, at exactly the time when this seminar started, this webinar started, we're going to reveal some most powerful strategies to help you with one of these. The one in the bottom right corner of your screen should say, difficult people, how to influence and win them over. I want you to imagine for a moment that someone who used to be very hard on you, hard to work with, very negative, now becomes one of your biggest supporters. Wouldn't that be wonderful if you had that power and you could use it? Well, you have the power. And I know this, it's not theory. It's something that I've seen work in my life in a most remarkable way. It's something that I saw work in Cheryl's life. Cheryl's boss was about to fire her. The relationship was so bad. I taught Cheryl the vulnerability strategy. She applied it, and she reported back to me that her boss became her biggest fan, telling everybody in the company how wonderful, how smart, and how productive she was. It is not magic, but sometimes you wonder. The human mind is sometimes complex and sometimes it's very simple. If you only understood how, some of the biggest detractors in your life can actually become your biggest supporters. What am I saying to you, my friend? The starting place is to stress-proof your life. Okay, we've talked about strategies there. This opens up your appetite and your capacity to pursue greatness in your life, excellence, the good life. The rest of the webinars that you see on the page are designed to help you fill that appetite to achieve more, to become more, to connect more, and of course, to earn more money. We are going to do a brief question and answer session in a moment. I want to get back to some of the things that we said we were going to do. But just before that, I want you to see something on the screen that has some options that are going to be able to help you. There's some things that I know you're going to want to have. First of all, that session that comes up next week, Wednesday, is number 8 on our chart, Difficult People, How to Influence and Win Them Over. It's valued $139 or $137. If you are interested in learning more, if you know some people who could really benefit from this and you want to bring them with you, you will only pay $39 if you register now, tonight. If you want to register for the next 3 that are coming up, not only that one, but also the myth of multitasking, talking about the time pressure thing and how to get more done, a life-saving alternative, that's another one, and another one about problems and how you deal with them. You don't need to solve them. Oh my goodness. Where that would normally cost $411, if you wanted all three today, you'd only have to give $99. And of course, I keep referring to the book Persuasion Power, which is $20 or $19.97. And of course, this $15 CD, which will give you $1,000 worth of peace of mind in my personal experience. I just wanted to share that with you because I realized that we've talked about a lot today, and there's more that we could cover, but I want to be respectful of time. Subsequently, ladies and gentlemen, I want to now go to the place where we can address some questions that you might have. We can talk about some of the information that you put in the screen earlier on regarding stress management. Let me just say to you that this thing that we're talking about here is so critical that it's life itself. Because what's the purpose of living to be 100 years old if you're miserable and stressed? You know, chances are you won't even make it, but the years that you're alive, you want them to be good. Yeah? So I want to open up this forum here for questions. If you have a question, please be sure to write your question at the bottom of the screen so we can see it. If you have a comment, be sure to make that comment so we can see it. And I'll try to address as many of them as I possibly can. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to just see what you have written here. Okay. Any thoughts, any comments from anyone on the screen? And I have my technical team. If there's anything that I'm missing here, please be sure and share with me. First of all, I want to let you know that the survey that we did turned out as follows. The people, let me just do a quick calculation, and I'll give you a sense for at least what this group of folks are experiencing here. Okay, so we have, I want to calculate percent. Okay, now we have this here. So of the participants on the line, 17% of the people have low stress, which means they rated themselves 3 or lower. And 50% of the people have medium stress, which is 5 to 7. And a whopping 33% of the people have stress levels that are 9 or 10. Now, you know, because 33 is less than 50, you might underestimate the crisis that that represents. A third of the people are in 9 or 10 range. Life is really rough. I mean, imagine that 1 out of every 3 people you know is in crisis mode, 9 or 10, where their head is blowing up and their body is suffering for it. Some of the people that you know, you need to bring them back. Wait a minute. This says to me that some of the people you know, when you get this CD called Immunity to Stress, you want to give it to somebody that you love right away to go through it. Okay? I mean, unless you're one of the 9s, you better suck it up tonight and get it in your head. So that's what we find so far. Now, let me just, and you know, that's just our non-scientific poll from those of you who are right here on the line. Any comment? Okay, so let's see. It's probably... Okay, I want to just see if you have any comment. This stuff is fairly simple. It's the real challenge, of course, is for us to do it. Okay. All right, please. All right. I'll give some time. I realize that there's nothing that I've said that is so complicated, so you may all have it down. Okay, great. Question: how do you handle it when the stress is really, really close to you, as in the example where it is a family member, somebody you love? I did say that there are times when you have to face the stress. Yeah, and you know, sometimes when people are closest to you, people you love, that's when the stress is most intense. And so I would say that in cases where the stress is coming from a loved one or somebody really close, that you allow yourself to suffer through it a little bit. Because, you know, let's say that somebody you really love dies. You don't want to make yourself into a board where you don't feel any pain. It's not that you can't. You certainly have the power to do that mentally. But if you go through crisis with a loved one where you feel no pain because you have so governed your emotion, it has a side effect, which means that later on, you might become very guilty because you feel like you don't care, and how come you didn't cry? There are people who go to funerals and prepare themselves, and then they suffer later on because they think they should be human and cry. So what I'd say is go through the pain, feel the suffering, make it cleansing, make it catharsis. But as you're going through the pain, you need to be aware that you have the power to shut it off whenever you want to. You can compartmentalize it. You can externalize it so that what is going through you right now serves to give you some kind of refreshing, some cleansing, and you know you're going to get over it. The problem is sometimes people suffer and it takes them a year or 2 years to get it out of their system. Some never get it out of their system. That's where it becomes really dysfunctional. So I'd say that is my answer for what happens when it's a close relative or very close friend. Okay. All right. Any other question? You should have on your screen the information necessary for you to order the products. By the way, for the immunity to stress, that will be emailed to you very shortly once you order it, and so you will have it very, very quickly. And I'm just scrolling now to see if there's anything else. Private, good, good. Okay. Tamara, did you have a question? Is that you there? Okay, great. Fixed it. Okay, good. I'll get a video. It's on a sync. Okay, great. All right, very good. All right, so it seems like the questions have been answered. Everybody's pretty clear. If you have any final comment, please let us know. We look forward to seeing you online next Wednesday night as we take this journey to continual personal transformation. Life is great, but sometimes when you read the news and sometimes when you listen to the negative people, it can kind of overwhelm you to come to the conclusion that life is not great. If you live in Toronto, if you live in Kingston, if you live in the Dominican Republic, life is great. I would imagine that if you live in Afghanistan or if you live in Hong Kong right now, life could be a little challenging, but even there are happy people and there are sad people. Isn't that remarkable? And so I want to encourage you tonight. I trust that you found the one thing that you were looking for that you're going to put into practice. If you haven't found it, then take the CD anyway, Immunity to Stress, or get the book, Persuasion Power, that will teach you to get people to say yes to you, or sign up for this class or all of them. Again, if you sign up for the $99 class, you will have the CD for free. But whatever your choice is, I really wish you well, that life will be good to you because you have learned ways to govern your thinking. Govern your thinking and you govern your life. Ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate your being here. And let me just do one other last thing. And I want to say personal. Yes, I want to just say personal thank you for the time that we've spent together. And I trust that you've benefited from it. I look forward to seeing you in another week or so. Please send me an email. Please respond to the information on the screen. And I wish you well. Have a great night and a great life. Thank you so much. Oh, by the way, there is a question there about the presentation and availability of the presentation. We typically are not able to give out the presentation itself in its entirety because of copyright reasons. This is the same presentation that we use with our Fortune 500 clients, and so we don't give the whole thing out, but be assured that the information that is between the book and the CD, you will get far more than what's here. We just have not been, I get in trouble with my lawyer to send out our entire presentation because it's our intellectual property, you'll understand, I am sure. Connect with me separately if you want to get some sort of summary, but we can't just send you the whole thing. Besides, it doesn't have all the details even, there's much more there as well. Okay? All right, thank you all so much. And again, I want to wish you a good night. I will hesitate for the last few seconds before the time's up here and see if anybody else has any other comment. But officially, this conference is over.